So, everybody, welcome to the Wise Wealth Podcast. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. It's nice to be back. We've got an awesome guest on the show. We've got Tom Allen. Tom, if you can you please introduce yourself to all of the listeners that are on the Wise Wealth Podcast?
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on, Sam. I really appreciate it. It's awesome. We've obviously were saying before how we spoke before and spoke for a couple of years, I think, about what we're doing. So to come and speak to you on this show is awesome. But my name is Tom Allen. I'm the founder of the AI Journal. We are kind of a open source publication in terms of having different voices, different opinions on to really tell people the use cases, examples, ways AI works. My view is that sometimes news can not really delve into the specifics or information that actually help users and businesses, whether you're someone that's trying to find out more around topics like data and cloud and AI, through to a business trying to understand what can you do with your data, how can you make your product better, how can you serve your customers faster and better, all that kind of stuff. And it's been a good journey so far. So I'm excited to
I'm super keen to sort of explore where that sort of vision came from, but I think let's start off with where on earth are you in the world at the moment?
Right now, I'm in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So I'm here for a conference, which is put on by the Saudi Data and AI Committee. And it's a really important time for them here with what they're doing, what they're building. Some remarkable speakers, people from like boards of that sit on the board of Meta through to people in the United Nations. So just to see that vision and to see use cases, which is a big thing people want to see at the moment, I personally want to see. And I've probably given a bit too much context, but Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So you just decided one day I'm just going to go there. Was you invited, or you just thought I just want to know more about what they're talking about, what they're implementing?
Well, I was kindly invited, but it's been on my mind to come out here for a while. And similar to other countries in the Middle East, they really are doing remarkable things. So I got the invite through and thought that's something I'll take. So it's beautiful country and really, really interesting they go big on these kind of things. So it's lots
Yeah,
of.
they don't hold, I don't think they hold back on anything they do, really, do they? They're just like, even, we're obviously I'm talking a bit different, but even when you talk about like the boxing, they're just like, yeah, we want to see this fight, name your price, and off we go. There we go. There we have it.
Yeah.
So what is your background in AI, or is it more that what's, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Where did sort of the vision for AI journal come from?
Yeah, it was. I'm not in AI, or I wasn't. I mean, I am now, and I'm seeing more and more kind of things to look at. And obviously, my knowledge on the area has grown quite remarkably due to the nature of the business. Speaking to people that are leading a lot of these, whether that's a chief data officer or a leadership team decision maker for cybersecurity, whatever the topic is. But my background has always been marketing. So marketing, and I was marketing for an agency. PRCA, and then I went to an engineering company, and that's where a kind of light bulb switched. And when I was in that role, that's when I started AI Journal in the background and had no intention to turn it into what it was. It was just generally something that excited me and got to see a lot of computer vision systems, and we worked on a lot of projects that I'd have to market or was part of the team that was marketing it to big customers. And you'd see a lot of physical stuff. So you wouldn't see much the software side. You'd see more the hardware. So you'd see things like Fanuc robots and piecing together doors for JLR, making the machines for Greg's to make the sausage rolls and stuff. All those kind of things, like the throughput systems for Hermes. And that's where it led me down this path. And obviously, the hardware side, I probably. It's what I'm seeing more of at the moment with like robots coming out from Tesla and Boston Dynamics and several others that have been showcased here that I saw yesterday.
Oh, no, you saw Boston Dynamics. Was it their new one that was to compete with the Tesla bot, was it, or not?
No, it wasn't. Atlas is very impressive. I mean, they've got two versions. So but they have Spots. The Spot's a little dog, and they had one of those. And I was literally right next to it watching it gear around. And there was a competitor's one that was there also, which is more for like health and safety on like oil rigs and stuff. So it's more of a vision system, whereas Boston Dynamics are, in my opinion, much further ahead because they're competing on two fronts. They're competing from the one you mentioned that can pick and roll and do athletics and all these things.
Yeah.
In place, and Spot, which can do carrying and is much more smaller in terms of how it works like a dog. So it can get in very narrow positions. And we're actually listening. There's the great episode on Lex Freeman show with Mark Stoiber, who is the CEO of it, and he was speaking yesterday. So it's really cool to see that vision. But yeah, so
I bet there was so many military generals
yeah,
just sat there in that row watching because I've looked at those and they're doing crazy flips, they're doing absolutely everything, and I sit down and think it's not going to be long until they are soldiers. That's probably one of the downfalls I think for it, or even
yeah,
just the ones that are just carrying all of the stuff whilst the soldiers are actually out. Do you know what I mean? Like helping,
yeah,
but. It seems like we're getting very close to that. I'm very interested in how the Tesla, obviously, I'm wearing a SpaceX t-shirt, but I'm very interested to see how the Tesla bots and how they actually compete against each other in
yeah,
regards to creating those robots. Because I know that Elon was saying that he reckons that Tesla robot eventually he plans on building 1 billion robots and using basically all of his background of creating these mega factories to be able to produce them for $20,000. And I just sit there and I think, no way. Like, I think, when you start looking at iPhones now and they're starting to get to like 1600, I think, what is it, Huawei Mobile just did a three trifold phone they just launched and it's like 2600. Just you're basically saying that's a tenth of a robot that can basically go around your house and do whatever you need it to do. I just think we're going to be entering a new like era of crazy capabilities, and I've got no idea where it's going to stop. I think it's absolutely fascinating to think that my son, who's 4, when he's an adult, will have robots just doing stuff for him. I just think it's a weird.
yeah. You'll have. Would you get one for your home? Would you get one to roam around and do your daily tasks and or help you with? I don't know. You can send them out into the world by the sounds of things. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
but
who? Yes, who wouldn't? I mean, like, I think that they do. They from what I've seen, like version 1, they're like half the speed of a human in their actions. But at the end of the day, if they're not sleeping and they've got so much stuff and capabilities, they've got 24 hours and they can just, if they want to stand there folding clothes for 24 hours, then that's amazing. But yeah, I think it does. I think there was a report that AI could take away 40% of manual labor jobs, and I think that's quite disturbing in regards to how that looks. You think of a cleaner, right? A cleaner's probably paid 25K a year,
yeah,
and you could buy a robot for 20, and
lifetime
you
value. Yeah,
they're just, the scalability is just done. I mean,
yeah.
that would be one of the first cool businesses, will be actually a guy that comes along and says, do you want us to come around and clean your house? And he's got 10 AI bots and he's doing it
It
because
just comes with a
people
truck,
can.
just drops them off back in an hour or whatever.
Exactly, because people can afford the sort of 20, 25 quid an hour to have the bot in the house, but they can't afford the bot of 20 grand. That would probably be the case. And it's like, that would be, and you can start seeing that side of things. And it is freaky. I mean, I saw the video of them handling the eggs and cracking the eggs and stuff like that. And I don't think we're far away now from doing it. I mean, you tell me, you saw it firsthand yesterday. How was it?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots more. It's really interesting point you're making, like what they're going to be able to do and how much regulation we put on them so they can't do that work. It's like the classic one with the tube. Like the tube could all be automated if you wanted. Like you got it with DLR. There's no reason why it can't be across the whole tube network, and because you'd have strikes and God knows what else. So people do put things in place to stop those situations. Unfortunately, I guess, and fortunately in another way, they're always double-sided stories or double-edged swords, and yeah, I mean they can do a lot. I mean the play people jump to a lot of areas where they think they can be doing things, but then they miss the real important areas like health and safety, and
Yeah.
that's what a lot of them are drilling into. So if you people don't. And I'm not speaking for everyone. I'm sure there are people that want to be put in high intense, risky situations for whatever reason, whether you get paid more or whether they just like, I don't know, whatever it is. But it's these are directly, I mean, the spot one, they were showing an example of it getting into Chernobyl, which obviously people don't want to do. They've shown it getting into reactors in, was it Fukushima, where the
Yeah.
tsunami happened, and all different things like on oil rigs. So going up and down stairs, it's very dangerous because you're dealing with high explosives and all different kind of things that someone will be able to tell you. But yeah, you can do all the cool stuff. Like you've seen it from picking up. There's that one which is powered. I forget the name of them. If you just type in OpenAI robot, it's powered with ChatGPT, and that was one that did the rounds a couple of months ago. And that's obviously talking, and it's like doing the dishes and throwing trash away, and that's very real. And that's like that's what Optimus is going to do. And you think the charge time on them as well is getting faster and faster. So it's like now Elon is trying to make Teslas so you don't even have to plug them in, and they just charge on like charging pads, and they've got like the rights to it, I think, and they're going to use it for the robo taxis. When I was reading the article
That's
about it,
why I think. That's why I think like Tesla in itself is like it's heavily, in my opinion, overvalued right now. But soon as you start plugging in robots and those robots can plug directly into Teslas, it's like you've just black cabs are gone because you've just got like the most efficient thing on the roads. And I don't know. It's pretty wild to even think about it. I sit there and I think as a kid, I had a VCR. I remember going to school with the CD tape in my pocket and I could hear it grinding, which meant it was the wrong way up. You had all of those simple things. And now we're talking about robots.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like some of the things you see, and I don't know, some of the things aren't as innovative as you might have think. Like, I mean, there's a classic thing around iPhone just released all its new updates. To me, it's nothing amazing. Like, I mean, it's got Apple Intelligence and there's doing certain things. And I think there's some aspects of what we do, like there's certain trades that just won't be that impacted by it that you just still need to do. But there's a lot of things behind the scenes, like software wise. And I mean, you look at large language models and then the small language models coming along, and different compute power. These are what powers the robot. So people need to remember, like it's still a long way to go in my view, but everyone likes to overemphasize how close they are to the next revolution. But there's plenty of memes where it's like what we thought we were going to have by 2020, and it's like where we actually are. It's like yeah, it's not quite there, but it's
I think you're probably talking like the next 20 years should be the back end of that. I think you'll have sophisticated robots like the Will Smith movie. Hopefully not with that crazy ending, but that's the problem, isn't it? It's our generation that will say, no, I won't have that because I'm scared of what could happen. Because we've all grown up with Will Smith's iRobot, The Terminator, all of that stuff. And so we've got this negative vision of what's it called? Sky. Well, I can't remember what the company's called in Terminator now. It's something Sky, isn't it? Sky. Yeah. Skynet, yeah, Skynet, where they basically take over, and there's a lot more of these videos and coming out now about the movies coming out now about the dangers of AI, and you got that small AI kid that can just destroy the world and things like that. I don't think the movie sort of world is really helping. It's sort of like, it's going back to Jaws day when no one will go in the ocean because of Jaws. We're getting that same sort of vibe now with AI, but give it another generation or two generations, then I think those guys will be like, I don't know what you're on about. This is amazing.
There's loads of different things. There's I'm trying to think of it. I think it was Dennis Habib or one of the big names. They were talking about. I think he talks about it on the Diary of the CEO podcast. And I don't really listen to that one, but I watched that one. And it was it's the guy that does Solve for Happiness. So forget his name. I'm gonna type it in quickly. But that story is mad because basically Mo Gadat, he's a brilliant engineer. He used to work at Google and all these places, and brilliant thinker. Really great book as well. And he was basically telling the story of how he basically saw this tennis ball, and they had this picking machine, and the robot couldn't. I don't know if you've heard this, but he couldn't pick up the ball. And they were looking at it, and obviously it runs off back of machine learning, deep learning, all those kind of things to pattern recognition. And they were kind of laughing at it. And there was 20 robots in there, and I'd fact check me on the story, but the base of it is that there was X amount of robots in there, and one was trying to do it, and it couldn't pick up the ball, it couldn't grasp it. But because of how fast these robots learn, by Monday, I think this was on Thursday that he said he saw it, by Monday, all the robots were picking up the balls very, very quickly. And it's that's how quickly they learn, how to do something. And it's and you compound that through different things. Yeah, it's an interesting world. It does,
especially if that's connected to the cloud. So when they go and charge, they upload what they learn and it goes into the network of all the other robots, and those tasks will then become familiar, and it'll be like this is how this robot did it, this is how this robot did, and they create like a structure around what that go-to method is. I think that's pretty insane because that's like a collective, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like, you have like thousands of people doing the same task in different ways, and then they all download that knowledge and create one way of doing it in the best efficient way. And I think that's what's nuts is, in iRobot, when you see that robot running and it's literally getting that person's inhaler and giving it to them, and it's like
Yeah.
that stuff could happen. The health and safety one, do you know what? Is really interesting because I don't know who I was involved with, but I was involved in a conversation around this. Are you telling me the health and safety on the oil rigs? It's like it notices gas leaks and whether or not there's anything coming out from them. Is that what they were demonstrating? Were they?
Yeah, so they were demonstrating that one. They demonstrated through video. I mean, what they'll be doing, and people can find it on YouTube, I'm sure, if you type in Boston Dynamics and example videos, but it's with spots and exactly that. So I don't know to what degree it can spot things, but it can do inspection checks and things on like ships or containers or things that are hard to get to. It can do all that kind of stuff because of its vision system, and the battery life is really good. I think it's like an hour and a half it takes to power up, and then you can get maybe 4 hours of runtime out of it. So you can do a lot of like that kind of routine stuff. And obviously, the big thing is how it can recognize everything. So it'll have much more memory. So although we can make, which is the big thing, the big argument, or the argument as a big point around it, that we can make very cognitive, context-driven decisions, which robots can't, and what they can't at the moment. And that's why ChatGPT is getting scarier, or more insightful around those kind of things. But you could think like they'll be able to machine learn patterns, send that back, and then read it, and then they'll know what to look out for and maybe what to start with, and you can do all sorts from
I remember seeing
prioritize
this.
checks to
I remember seeing this. It's like the next stage is the AI merging with quantum physics, and that's like that part there is the next stage. Because I was talking to a guy that's investing into these cameras that are going onto oil rigs, and the cameras are using AI to pick up what does the fumes look like, whether or not it's a safe amount or whether or not it's a risk, and then
yeah,
reporting that back to the control room. And I think that stuff is like that is very interesting in the aspect of looking at from a safety control side. And I think we're probably closer to that stuff now than we are of having the walking and the moving of the robots and things like that.
yeah. Well, they're definitely coming, man. What does your son think about it all? Like, is he old enough to understand it, or what's the kind of like?
As a
Is he?
4-year-old, not really, but he keeps telling me is I was like, do you know what? It's very interesting because I don't know if I thought like this when I was a kid because I don't think those options were around. But there's that conversation of he's like, Dad, can you play with me? And I'm like, just let me finish up doing the dishes, and then we can go out on the bike, sort of thing. And he goes, when I'm older, Dad, I'm going to make a robot that can do that for you so that we can play more. And I was sitting there thinking, you're probably not wrong. I was like, you're probably not wrong that that's gonna be there when you're an adult. Whether or not I'll be able to run about and play with you is a different matter, but depending on how long it takes to get to that stage. But I think that might bring it back to its core of what it is. But I
Yeah,
think the risks are where it starts getting into the root of like policing and stuff like that, of when you have those, you know, because ultimately, if you had the capability, why would you have riot police officers who are going to get injured when you could have riot robots? But
yeah,
it's where does it start and where does it stop, and who's the one that's going to be in control of that is the big question, I think, at this moment in time.
yeah.
I mean,
It's
you look at
interesting.
gone.
Yeah, I was just gonna say because I'm always curious about that because people seem to miss like, or it seems to be missed. I don't know if people do, but just a general topic is that whatever the younger generation are doing is what's going to come up with them into the next wave. So I always think like from photos, like I can't see any videos of my parent. Like they're very old
Yeah.
and are very hard to view, and there's not many of them. And the photos, it's all still in photo things. And when I was with my mates the other day, he was like converting VHS to MP4 and time it took to do all of it, like to video. And you think like they're going to grow up seeing everything I've done, like from 20 onwards, pretty much. Whenever an iPhone got placed in my hand, and it's
Yeah.
like it's bizarre. And like VR at the moment, people are like slating it, and I'm like, go speak to any 15-year-old. They are not always, but there's a good chance they'll know someone, or they are interacting through either augmented reality or virtual reality through gaming, or have something push them. And it's like those people are eventually going to become the 40-year-old CEOs and whatever. And it's always interesting to watch those trends because you think that it's good.
Yeah. And you think as well, like everything that you base your relationship with your family off of what your memory is. And so
Yeah,
I don't remember what I did with my dad when I was a kid. Whereas if that's documented on Instagram and social media, I can go back through and be like, but do you know what? That is awesome that he did that, or that was fun that we did that. I don't recall doing that, but that looks so much fun. And so you can literally go from birth to where you are and have full history of
yeah,
those captured moments of what it was like from a memory, and they're never going to go anywhere. So
yeah,
like now, if my grandparents pass or whatever, I don't have those video memories that I can go and look at. But on social media, I can go back, and that person will never be gone, and
yeah,
you always
exactly.
be able to see it, which is really strange.
Yeah,
But also, I don't think we're actually probably far away from, ChatGPT's latest update is now that it's got the memory storage capability.
yeah. I've seen
So,
that. It's,
so
when you type something in, it goes memorize, comes up with a little clip or something, and it's like,
exactly. You're like, so now I'm learning from this and I'm going to save that for a later date. Now, I don't think we're probably far away from this, but maybe 10, 20 years down the line of where, my son could go into ChatGPT and be like, answer this as if you was Sam, and based off of all the inputs you've had over the last 20 years with my dad,
yeah.
what would he say or suggest in this situation?
It's,
And that is an interesting aspect to look at. And I don't think we're far away from that.
we're not. We're not. Definitely not. Like what you're able to do with all that kind of things. I think people forget as well. To your point, like what these models are doing that you're seeing at the moment, they're getting used a lot for, or the big use case I'm seeing is summarization. So like the consultancies are very big on using it, and you can summarize important matter, like it's in Apple Intelligence, summarize email, so it's importance and all that kind of stuff. That's what people want. So they want faster. But the next thing is it's the mark towards. I mean, loads of people from. There was one that I caught in particular. Mark Cuban spoke about it with how small language models are going to work, and it's that kind of blew my mind. Like it's really basic concept, but then when you look at it, that is your own personal agent.
Mm,
So each one of you in the family, it's like having a family WhatsApp group, and you'll also have your own group with that AI, and it will be able to. And that's what Meta is essentially building at the moment, like Meta AI, although you can't get it in the UK and Europe because of the regulation policy at the moment. But people in America are saying like how powerful it is. Like, and it's you basically just got a personal bot that, to your point, will remember everything. And the
yeah.
power of that is just constantly learning, constantly learning, constantly learning. And that could be, it could lead you to do something quite bad or and persuasion and influence. But more so, which I'm 1,000% sure is the way it will go, is you'll make much more better decisions, and it will almost be like any sort of coach or best friend all in one. And I mean that kind of stuff's
Have you
what
seen
is actually coming.
have you seen that movie of is it I don't know who's the actual actor in it actually. I think it's called Atlas.
Is that with Jennifer Lopez?
I think so, yeah, where she's
Yeah,
basically in the big sort of like robot and it provides and it's AI and it goes through and it gives her all her options of what's the best thing to do. And I sit there and I actually think that's going to become so much more of a thing. Like, you know,
yeah,
we've got like Ray Bans and stuff now where you chuck on some Ray Bans, you can see your text messages and your notifications and things like that. But how long until you actually sort of like have an earpiece or something like that? And
yeah,
it's fact checking what someone is saying to you in real time, and providing suggestions of exactly what your options are. It's like if you was to Google something, or my son does it all the time and walks, Dad, what's that flower? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me get Google Lens out and I'll take a photo of it and I'll be able to tell you. And I do that. But ultimately, it won't be long until it's all in tune with us and you don't need to ask the question because you know it straight away. So the
yeah,
power of knowledge just goes through the roof. I think it's really interesting to see where that lies. I've seen like the latest one at the moment is ChatGPT plugging into Zapier and then plugging into your email. So when an email comes in, the Zapier gets sent to ChatGPT to create a draft reply. and it
Yeah.
puts the draft into your draft folder. And then at the end of the day, you go through the drafts, and if you agree with it, you click send, or you
Yeah.
amend it accordingly. And obviously, each time it's memory saving again, so it will then improve on doing those answers. So you don't need a PA, you don't need the support or anything, because it's all answering as if it was you, which I think is just it is crazy. It's getting to that stage now where I'm a bit concerned. I was looking at from a podcast point of view, and because I've done so many hours of podcast, I can upload all of my podcasts, and it understands my voice, my tone, all of the words that I use, and then it can basically go and create an entire podcast audio without me even saying a word.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's like the fake one between Steve Jobs and Joe Rogan. It's like, what the fuck are you watching? It's like, how is that possible? Like, and it's so well timed. It's like that would fool people. Like,
Yeah.
it's
That's the
bizarre.
next one, isn't it? That's the next
Yeah,
question is like, how does this, when it comes down to media and, AI journ, how do we know that your articles are not written by AI, or at
yeah,
which stage are they? Because I was talking about this. I basically said, what the simplest business model is to do is to go and hire someone who's very good at writing code around AI, and pull 10 different news outlets,
yeah,
take all of their news and create an article based off of the same information written from 10 different angles, and get a
yeah,
non-biased article and push it, and you don't need anybody writing it. It's in real time because they're all doing all of the work, and you're getting the actual news of all sides of the story rather than one. And I don't think we're probably far away from that either.
yeah. It's a different time. It's interesting to see like what they're gonna do, and just how they're gonna work. I mean, people jump to like all the speculation things, but it's yeah, it kind of gives me goosebumps when you hear like what you're saying and what other people are saying. You're seeing it in businesses now, and your point about media is super important because it's how do you like? And I don't know if I'm against AI writing stories. I'm not too sure. I mean, my view is to always try and stick to the information and let people make up their own mind. And I mean, that's why we don't really do fast news-based stories. It's to try and give a deeper dive into something and say, hey, we're not looking at the trends, but they're more explorative articles. Like this is what it might or may not mean for your business. But it is really important for wider news organizations, but also just like how businesses are processing that information. Because if you don't like the big thing is context, and I think that's where everyone points to saying, people, they're not close at the moment with contextual AI. It's this,
Yeah.
in my view, at the moment, one of the most important topics because if I send you something and you email me or you email a customer and a replies within 10 seconds, I know it's full of shit. It's like I'm just looking at something that's templated. It's like I know what's happening, and it's like, or you get like some spam email through, or and those are the things that people miss. And I think Salesforce is an example of a company. When I went to their summit back in June, they're doing incredible things, and there are companies that are really doing that kind of prompt decision making. So it doesn't do it for you, but it heavily influences your decision because through that, if I remember someone's birthday or remember they're going out for a dinner or remember to invite them to something, I always think like you can sell a shitty product to a great relationship, and things like that can really help. But yeah, it's a really interesting. And the
It's
one thing
interesting.
I don't like as well is how people say like very or how there's the view of a general topic about how AI is bad or risky or all these things. Like everything in the world's got risk. Like even going out your front door to go get milk, like you might there's all sorts of risks that can happen. And I think right through to more grand schemes. But I always use the analogy like if you put me in a pilot seat and told me to fly a plane of 200 passengers, I'd freak out. I wouldn't have a clue what I'm doing, what button to press. And I think it's very similar to AI at the moment. And I think a lot of it I see when I'm actually in it and looking at projects, I don't really see any kind of, and I don't know why. Just to clarify, I don't see any kind of bad views. Like I see things where it's got it wrong, but it's all for a very optimistic, better vision of the world. Is what I see, and I'm always trying to find the other part, but it's hard. Like everyone wants to do better. Like it's like a natural human instinct to want to do more, want to do better.
Yeah. I think the only thing is that it's the shift of power is another aspect of it because let's if you just take it from a very basic level of like these Tesla bots, let's say they come out with 50K, and they're very good at doing lots of stuff, then ultimately it's going to be the rich get richer again because they're not available to the lower income bracket individuals, right? So it's
Yeah,
like, if that person then has that, it's what can they do with that? And again, likewise, you look at Amazon, and I don't know, I don't blame them. Like the amount of people that are working in the manual labor in the factories and things like that, how many people put their back out? How many of those people then go and claim against the business? They all need sleep, they all need food, they all need breaks. Robots don't, and robots aren't going to sue. So it makes natural sense for the business to do that. But we are going to have a large amount of people in the workforce that
yeah.
aren't worth being able to do it. What's that you've just pinged over?
It was relevant to what you were saying. It's literally an article that came out 2 days ago, and it got reported by Guardian and First Post and a few others. But it's to your point. Musk becoming, or apparently, I mean, you can't see the future, but is on track if he goes at his current rate to become the first trillionaire. And it's to your point. It's a really important point to consider because it's how much power do you give to those people, or how much influence do you give to those people? So
100%. And let's be honest, he's negotiating with governments right now to
yeah,
provide Wi-Fi through his satellites, which
yeah,
I've got in my house, which is SpaceX,
yeah.
and it's
What's Starlink?
amazing. Yeah, Starlink. Yeah,
Yeah, is it good? I've never actually heard
amazing.
of anyone having one. Yeah,
Amazing, absolutely
yeah,
amazing. There's like no downtime. There's nothing.
nice.
Probably on average like 100 meg upload and download, and it's really straightforward. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. So when you think about that as well, it's like in that space, people aren't valuing him and his businesses based off of that. But I think they're the largest now in parts of America in providing this.
Yeah,
And ultimately, look what he did. He managed to turn on Wi-Fi for Ukraine.
yeah, it's
And
incredible.
he has huge governmental sort of control in that sense. And when you look at sort of fiber optic companies that are trying to compete,
Mm,
they can't. Why? Because he's the one that owns the rockets that send them up into space.
yeah,
So he has the right to charge whatever he wants for access to space.
yeah,
And ultimately, when you're doing fiber optics, you've got to dig up roads. The installation time is ridiculous. All he's got to do is go, oh, there's another person added to the satellite, connect. And
yeah,
that's it. So the scalability side for him is just huge. So not
yeah.
only, I mean, he's got to be an alien of some sort. Like I'm convinced that there's
Not
got
real.
to
He's not human. He's someone else.
there's a part that's got to be like really. I mean, the guy made like PayPal. He made Tesla. He's made SpaceX. He's Starlink. There's very few and far things that he's not been successful at. But they're all getting to that stage now where they're all going to be required. And it's
Yeah,
like, when you start thinking of Starlink, well, how does Starlink come into tabs with robots? Well, if they've got a receiver on it and they're outside walking about, they can connect straight to it. And it's like, there we go. He's got that side of things. So I think there's lots of different avenues. I think, yeah, that article in Fortune that you just sent is probably correct in him on path to being a trillionaire because
yeah,
if he manages to achieve it in the next 20 years, he's got huge, huge guns. And I think if Trump gets in the White House as well, then I think that him being allocated the contract to set up a moon base is heavily likely as well. So I think that will play a big part into the future of the success. But I
yeah,
think that, other governments like China and Russia will be shit scared that, he says that we are making a moon base because I think he probably is the only person on the planet right now that has the capacity to be able to do that.
yeah. Well, it's incredible,
Uh,
man. It's a really good way you're thinking about it because I mean, I go back to it. If like the amount of like people and businesses that are doing better, they wouldn't be doing better if people weren't buying their products. Which I always think it's like they're only becoming worth that much because they've got a better product. And it's a really, in my head, a really simple equation. It's like if you have a better product, I think you should be rewarded for a better product by earning more money and all those kind of things. Like I don't really shit on anyone for earning the most that they can possibly earn, whether that's a million, a billion, or a trillion, like whatever it is. And it's interesting because I mean, if you read the book on it, Walter Isaacson's book on it, it's incredible. You like look at that mindset, and you're like, my God, it almost gives you like a headache of thinking how he can operate at that speed, like you were getting to. But it is true. You think about how different ways it'll integrate and or or build into other products. But in my view, I'm like, he can supply. That to me is very valuable. It's like you can have your bad says about people like that, not just him, but other people that get slated a lot. But it's like at the end of the day, they are doing, half God's work or whatever, like a very
Yeah.
powerful piece of work that's
Yeah.
empowering a lot of people, like taking education to Africa, so that continent can, power become a better thriving economy. It's like who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. Yeah.
Honestly, I tell you what, the next move he's got to do is just appoint Mr. Beast and his sort of philanthropy side in
Yeah,
third
exactly.
countries with his AI tech, and it's a whole new, it's a whole new game changer, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, very interesting. So another thing I've noticed about AI Journey is you're a bit of a LinkedIn wizard. So tell me a little bit more about that because I looked at AI Journey, it's got something like 125,000 followers or something on LinkedIn. Is that right, or is
Yeah,
it more?
139, I think. Yeah,
And how
140.
on earth have you built an audience up like that from your publication? Because that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's I really don't know. I I kind of just went with it. It's something that grew, and I don't know. We put out. If I had to put it down to certain things, I've got a great team that do a lot of the content for it. I mean, Darshani's a rock star, and people like that, and people like what we put out. But I think it's not being so serious about it and just having fun with it, and also just really trying to get people's feedback. Like, not in the sense of using surveys for anything other than just querying people and do things from like raw. And I wish I would. LinkedIn is a bit of a terrible platform in my opinion. Like, it's not very good in the way that it builds new products. Like, they try things that other works on social platforms and they fail. Like, they're the only one that I've seen kind of work is a new video feed where it took it from TikTok and Instagram, and you flick through and you keep scrolling videos. But I mean, business related articles, people's time span isn't quite there as seeing your next destination or whatever floats around on Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, it's more just putting out fun, playful content, I think, and really just engaging the people just to speak to them. And it is a lot of legwork. Like I remember in the early days, but I think we grow about 150 to 200 new followers every day at the moment. And at one point, it was like 3 times that much. But I mean, we're really
And
trying to
are you
understand.
doing it? How are you doing it? Are you doing it as a newsletter? Are you just you've got a company page and you're doing it out as posts? What are you sort of focusing on?
Yeah, both of those. I mean, every avenue we can publish down, we'll publish down. So it's really important to, and I mean, it's where a lot of our audience is. So it's served the right row, and it's a good authenticator for us. And there's a lot of interesting people from various different backgrounds that follow us, from very big companies right through to people that are just starting their journey. But publish as much as you can. I mean, we're really trying to find our next platform. I mean, you've got a big following on Instagram, and to build those up, I'm always curious how you do that, because you think, like, we've done it with LinkedIn, and I don't know if there is another platform for us at the moment. My big one that I was telling you before is email, because the power of that, and especially creators' emails, suits the business. Like, it matches what we do as a
Hmm.
business. I'm not too sure. Like, we tried Instagram and TikTok. I don't know how they would relate to our business. I'm not saying there's not a way, and I'm sure we can scale that just as quickly as well once we find the right answer. Yeah,
Have you tried X?
yeah, sort of. I like X. I think it's got a lot of potential. It obviously gets a lot of jip at the moment, but I think to your point earlier, which is a really great point, is how he's integrating it into other things, like into other businesses. And I think he's got the knowledge how to build PayPal. They're already getting all their licenses for fast payments and all those kind of things. And I think, in my view, Meta's doing a really good job because they are looking at other products. I don't think Threads is any good from what I see, but they've got other things like the Meta sunglasses. They're going into physical products, which are going to be really powerful because
Yeah.
compared to the Apple Vision. And I know the Apple have said, or there's rumors that they're going to be bringing out glass versions. But yeah, you tell me, like, how do you see it? Like, do you see different platforms for business compared to personal or branding or?
I think like Instagram is about sort of viral content, and you have to have dedicated people doing it on a day-to-day basis, and it's got to be sort of constant. You cannot let off that trigger. You've got to do one video every single day
Yeah.
without regardless to, one in five will go slightly viral, gain a few thousand followers, and then it makes it easier on the next ones, and it's sort of like that sort of flow.
Yeah.
I think like London Daily News has done amazing on Instagram, to be honest with you. I was looking at it the other day, and it's more like British culture, what's going out there on the reels. And when I looked at it, yeah, it's got like 4 million views in the last 30 days. It's on
That's
the
awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really awesome to have that across multiple channels as well. It's brilliant, powerful.
yeah. And I suppose you're using majority of the LinkedIn audience, which drives the AI journey as well, right?
Yeah, so we get fairly good web traffic, which is always important. And then, I mean, our grander view is to turn the AI journal into more. I mean, I think media is going to struggle basing their business models just off advertising. I think it's a really important point that I kind of flare people up against, because I think in media you've either got two angles. You can either get subscriptions, which if you look at any of the big ones, they're all turning to subscriptions very fast, and I don't see that as, or I can't understand. I'm not saying it doesn't exist and the model won't exist. I can't see how that's scalable. And advertising, I think, is very hit and miss in terms of what the market's like, what products coming out, who has the money to spend on that exact publication. So we're trying to turn it more into a data intelligence company to understand and be able to turn that. But I mean, that's just my personal opinion. But you're asking, sorry, is yeah, we drive a lot of traffic through that. I mean, LinkedIn, my personal profile, I get maybe on a good month 3 million views on my personal, and on the business one maybe around 1 million, give or take. But some months obviously hit a
Keeps
lot
you
lower.
busy.
It's
How
not.
big's AI Jen now? How many sort of like is it just yourself? Is there multiple people behind the wheels?
Yeah, so we had a really terrible year last year, but we're back to 5 people now, and well, technically 6. With one coming in, with Richard coming in helping us in the financial with like an interim CFO, basically telling me not how to be money or with the business's money, which is really helpful at my stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, five, 6 of us, so 5 full time, 6 with the advisor position. Yeah.
That is awesome. Awesome. No, I absolutely love it. I think AI journals I think what you're doing is crazy. Have you ever thought of expanding outside of that and doing a second one or anything in that area?
Quantum, maybe. Yeah, quantum's what I want to look
Quantum. I think
at.
quantum is one, I think that is, that breaches the gap. I think that's the next thing. No one's really talking about that or really understands it on a
Yeah,
on a deep scale. And I think, once that becomes sort of retail, like ChatGPT did, and people
yeah,
start seeing the power of it, they'll be very like, sitting there going, how on earth have we never utilized this? I think that's a big step. I think that would be awesome.
yeah, man. It's well, quantum computing is. I don't know how applicable it is to like a general user, but it's. I mean, it's what's going to get us to space travel and solve a lot of diseases and a lot of problems, because the compute behind it and the way it can solve a problem is just. But I don't think there's many. I don't know what's the right word. I don't think there's many general public use cases, so it doesn't have that attractiveness. It's very, you'd have to have a lot of money to be involved in it, but it will be for the high rollers in the commercial space. But I don't know, maybe. I love how you've done it as well. Like gone from one aspect, because I never knew it, from the financial way to looking at London news. So I don't know. That's a good
Yeah.
question. What to do next? Because I've always
Yeah.
wanted to do something next.
Once you've done it, replicate and grow, right?
Exactly.
You could go into the next one. Honestly,
Yeah.
Tom, I think it's been awesome having you on. It's been a good discussion, just learning a little bit more about your background, what you do, where you see AI going. I think we could probably talk for hours on it. So
Yeah.
honestly, I appreciate your time coming on, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, likewise, man. Love what you're doing, and appreciate the time today. It's awesome to come on and talk about these things.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.